Hey guys, it's really hard being a gun owner, especially in California today. All these restrictive gun laws, and then the federal government is taking all of California's gun laws and trying to make them national. And that's one of the reasons that we created Gun Owners Radio. We want to make activism easy for you. So when you support Gun Owners Radio, you're not just listening to a great show with gear reviews, politics, interviews. You're actually helping create a culture that's going to help change the Second Amendment in California for the better and for good. When you support Gun Owners Radio, you're not just listening to a radio show. You're actually supporting activism. You're supporting the programs that we do, like our shooting socials, where we teach new shooters and give them a first-time shooting experience. Our gun shop tabletops, where we spread the word about the Second Amendment in California and make sure people have the information they need to get a CCW, for example. You're supporting our Second Amendment Celebration Dinner, which is October 16th this year, and Gun Owners Radio is a big sponsor. So I need you to do two things today. First is, click on the link below and join, and the other thing I need you to do is subscribe. Subscribe to our YouTube channel so that you don't miss any of the great Gun Owners Radio content.
Hi everybody, it's Michael Schwartz with Gun Owners Radio. We're doing a very special Gun Owners Radio MAGNUM episode here with Dr. Piazza from FRONTSIGHT. But before we get into it, I want to tell you a little bit about Gun Owners Radio. We broadcast live every Sunday from 4 to 6 p.m. on 1170 a.m. locally in San Diego County, or you can listen to us anywhere in the country. If you go to youtube.com/Gun Owners Radio, and don't forget to check out our website, gunownersradio.com, where you can hear past episodes where we talk about gear reviews and politics and the Second Amendment and interview some of the most interesting people in the Second Amendment world. It's a lot of fun, and hope to have you join us. We started doing these MAGNUM episodes because it helps us get a little bit more in depth with some of the really, truly interesting people in the Second Amendment world. So sit back and relax. We're going to talk to Dr. Piazza, and I think you're going to really, really like what you have to hear. Dr. Piazza, how are you, sir?
I'm doing fine.
Thank you so much for joining us. I really appreciate it. You are the founder of FRONTSIGHT in Pahrump, Nevada, and
That's
you guys you've been around how many years now?
We're in our 25th year.
That's awesome. Congratulations.
Thank you.
I've taken the basic handgun a number of times. My wife started taking it with me 3 years ago. I started taking the first class I took was a 4-day defensive shotgun class, and this was probably back in about 2010. And I'll be honest with you, I had no training on a shotgun at all. And I thought to myself, what in the heck am I going to learn for 4 days about a shotgun? And I discovered I didn't know what I didn't know. And the shotgun is truly I've heard it described as the Swiss Army knife of the firearms world. And I was blown away by I was hooked right then and there.
Well, thank you. You know, interesting thing that you mentioned there is that you've taken the basic handgun and you took the entry-level shotgun. And that's one of the misunderstandings about our courses. Even though they are the entry-level 4-day defensive handgun, 4-day tactical shotgun, 4-day practical rifle course, don't mistake that for being a beginner course. We can take people that have never shot a shotgun or a rifle or a handgun ever before. We can even rent them the equipment. But it's basically a course that at the end of 4 days, you're going to leave with skills that far exceed 95% of the gun-owning population and far exceed the standards that you find in law enforcement and military. So we do that over a 4-day period, a very intensive period that allows people to gain a level of skill at arms that they never thought possible and get an understanding of the weapon that they never thought possible.
Exactly right. Every time I've taken the 4-day handgun, there are, of course, my wife, who's, especially when she started her first time in the class, she was very much a beginner. And there were people in the classes with us who are law enforcement, former special ops military, people that have had training before. And then I'm somewhere in between. I'm not on either end of the spectrum there. I'm somewhere in between and hopefully getting better and better. everyone gets something out of the class. Everybody, and no one feels left behind. No one feels bored. There's something. Everybody gets something out of those 4-day classes, which I think is a tremendous credit to the way you've developed the curriculum and the way your instructors deliver the curriculum.
Thank you. Yeah, we've worked at this a long time, and we've trained, I think we may be over 1 million people now. We have over 250,000 lifetime members. So in that amount of time and with that amount of people, you got to get it right. So I think we have it figured out at this point.
Yeah, and that is interesting. There's a lot of people. FrontSight has turned into, it's more than just a school. There are. I'm assuming you must, you must witness this as well. But there are. It's a lifestyle. There are people who are involved in the FrontSight lifestyle. They go there on a regular basis. They have FrontSight friends. They, wear FrontSight clothing and, teach in a way that, that they've, to others that they've learned from FrontSight. How does that feel when you stand back and look at the last 25 years and you're seeing community? You've built a community. How does that feel?
It feels great. My goal with FrontSight was to create a supportive, caring environment where anybody could come and learn skill at arms to levels that exceed law enforcement and military standards. And I really wanted it to be a situation where when you come through the gates at FrontSight, you feel like you're in a different place. You breathe kind of a sigh of relief because now you're among your people. And I think we've accomplished that. And it's very gratifying. I'm very proud of it. And I love the fact that, people have, entire families have annual vacations to FrontSight, and you're seeing 3 generations show up. And we're able to train, grandma and grandpa and mom and dad and the kids and the grandkids. It's really, I say, it's really gratifying. And, certainly couldn't do it without the outstanding, instructional staff and the very dedicated, purpose-based people that work at FrontSight, because we all have the same philosophy. The purpose of FrontSight is to positively change the image of gun ownership by training responsible citizens to a level of skill at arms that far exceeds military and law enforcement standards, and do it in a very caring, supportive environment that's great for the entire family. And that's really what we do at FrontSight, and it's why people gravitate to us and come back year after year and bring their family and friends with them.
Yeah, I think you have done a fantastic job. We, I run San Diego County Gun Owners when I'm not doing Gun Owners Radio, and we're, of course, a political organization. We focus on Second Amendment advocacy, and one of the things that we do is we give adults a first-time shooting experience. We call it our shooting socials. And it's not necessarily instruction. It's just a first-time shooting experience to help take the mystery out of shooting, and we pair them up with experienced mentors who volunteer their time, and they bring their firearm, and we take them to a range and give them a safety briefing, and again, just give them a first-time shooting experience. And I've definitely noticed that the mentors who are good at it, who are really good, they're all very, they're all good. They're all safe, but the ones that are really good at it are people that have taken the FrontSight course, and it's I can look down the line. We'll have between 10 and 20 people, and I can look down the line, and I can almost tell just by looking at them for a few minutes. Okay, that person's been to FrontSight. That person's been to FrontSight. That person's probably not been to FrontSight. It's really, really amazing, and I think you have a lot to be proud of. I just am a big fan. My wife and I go. My mother-in-law and father-in-law go, and we have a big charity shoot in the early spring every year, where we get a bunch of people from San Diego and other parts of Southern California, and we go to FrontSight and raise money for cancer research. And you guys are always so good to us, and it's just a great, fantastic experience.
Well, thank you. That's one of the goals at FrontSight is that when somebody comes into FrontSight and attends one of our courses, that they leave a different person. They leave a walking, talking representative of safe, responsible, expert gun handling. And what you're mentioning there about when you have people mentoring others and you can see that they're front sight trained is part of the curriculum that we created, because we not only create people who can safely handle a weapon and shoot accurately and shoot fast, we also create great coaches because we pair the students up into a student coach format. Much like when you go out diving in the ocean, you have a dive buddy.
Right.
We give you pair you up with a coach, a student coach, who is watching you and making sure that you're operating safely. And then, of course, when it's their turn on the line, they watch you. So through this 4-day period, not only do they learn how to be safe and responsible and accurate and have great gun handling themselves, they actually learn how to teach somebody else. And that's part of the goal here at FRONTSIGHT as well, is to spread this doctrine, spread this understanding of safe and responsible gun handling, expert gun handling.
I want to talk about the goal, because it appears to me, and to be very frank, I would be willing to bet that FRONTSIGHT leaves a lot of profit on the table in exchange for trying to spread the message. And I guess what I'm trying to say is, you guys could probably make a lot more money with your model and your curriculum and your school and your the commitment that your instructors have to being really excellent. I have a feeling you guys could probably make a lot more profit, but that doesn't really appear to be the number one goal. It appears that you've set this up to where the goal is more of a trying to get as many people as you can in the United States to be able to defend themselves, to be able to effectively handle and carry a firearm. Am I off on that, or what are your thoughts on that?
No, you're absolutely correct. I was a millionaire before I started FRONTSIGHT, and when it's my time to move on, I'll be a multi-millionaire. That's where I'm at this point after 25 years of operating FRONTSIGHT. But it's never been about the money. It's been about the purpose, and I'm a firm believer that if you're purpose-based, if you live your life and your business is purpose-based on not just making money, but providing a great service and a great experience and a great product to others, the money will take care of itself. And, students often refer to me as the millionaire patriot, not because I'm a millionaire, which I am, but because I've given away millions and millions and millions of dollars in free and discounted training so that the purpose of FRONTSIGHT can take hold in the United States, and that we can truly create a nation of armed and responsibly trained citizens. And that's what we do. And you're absolutely right. We can make a lot more money doing things another way, but we wouldn't see as many people that way. And my goal is, to make as many responsibly trained people in America as we possibly can, because that's really the key. And we've had numerous situations where our students have, stopped violent crimes. We even had one that stopped a shooting in a mall. I mean, we get these reports on a regular basis. I'm actually surprised we don't get more because of the people that we've trained. But every time that happens, I say, okay, this is the result of what we're doing. We're putting the right people out there on the streets, in the homes, in the communities that are armed, responsibly trained, are going to do the right thing when that situation occurs, and they're the one. They're the one that's in the barrel, and they need to take action. And so many of our students have stopped violent encounters without ever having to fire a shot, simply because their gun handling, their command presence, everything that we teach at FRONTSIGHT is right there for them at that time.
That doesn't get talked about enough nationally, and certainly in the media. Whenever some kind of incident happens and media wants a statement from us, the 1 to 2 million times per year that a person stops some kind of violent crime with a firearm because they had a firearm, and that doesn't necessarily mean that they fired a bullet. It could, like you said, having a command presence, being able to show that, hey, I'm able to defend myself, 1 to 2 million times per year someone stops a violent crime, and we don't talk about that. Or I should say, it doesn't get talked about nearly enough. And I think getting that message out is crucial. What are your thoughts on that?
No, I agree with you. It's just not front page news. The media wants all the sensational stuff. They want to see, grieving parents and a grieving community because 10 or 15 people were killed. They don't want to show the one guy that stopped the incident before it ever happened, because that to them, isn't news. But it happens all the time, and you just never ever hear about it.
Yeah. So we've talked about your curriculum and how long you've been around. Let's talk about, how did it all start? From my understanding is you were a chiropractor in, I believe was it Fresno?
Aptos, California.
Okay, you were there was an incident in your neighborhood. Why don't you tell the story? How did all this begin? How did the idea for FRONTSIGHT begin?
Well, I was just your average gun owner. I owned guns. I took them to the gun range and I shot. And I was never formally trained in anything. And one evening, I was sitting watching TV, and there was a random drive-by shooting in my quiet upscale neighborhood. And I remember hearing the shots and hearing what sounded like bullets hitting the house. And I grabbed my wife and we got down on the floor. And this went on for, a few seconds. Three different houses were shot. And I realized that all my guns were in a gun safe on the second floor. And even if I could get up to the gun safe and retrieve a gun, what would I really do with it? Because I'd never had any formal training along these lines. So that kind of was my awakening that, hey, I better get some real training. And I sought out training from, at the time, was the best place to go. It was a place in Arizona that was run by a retired Marine Corps colonel. And I went to that class, a complete newbie, not knowing anything. And here I was, with LAPD officers and, Navy SEALs and a whole bunch of people just like me, professional people that wanted to get that kind of training without, having to go into the military or law enforcement. And I loved it. And I came back 13 different times. These were week-long courses, and I received the highest levels of certification that school offered. And then I went around to the other big-name instructors and big-name schools that were around at the time. Now, again, this was like 30 years ago. And I received all of their highest levels of certification. And along the way, I saw what they were doing really well, and I saw what they were doing, well, what wasn't quite as good as it could be, in my opinion. And at some point, I thought, I could open up a school, and I think it would do pretty well, and we would, run it in a manner, as I've said, that's good for the entire family, that provides a level of instruction that far exceeds military and law enforcement standards. And that's when I decided to open FRONTSIGHT. And it was, initially it was difficult to do. I put a 750-acre active cattle ranch in central California into escrow and was going to build a facility there, really just from the standpoint of a place to provide courses on the weekend and kind of tax deduct all of my interest in, shooting and in firearms ownership. And I spent a couple $100,000 trying to get a use permit for it over the course of a year. And I thought I had all of the votes, and, in the last minute, when we were there trying to get the use permit, the project was shot down. Gee. And I'd spent about a year going around to all of the gun shops in California, meeting the gun shop owners and basically asking them, what would you like to see in this type of training facility? So I had this 632 gun shop owners on my referral list, but the project was shot down. And that's interesting because back then there were 632 gun shops in California. How many do we have now?
Right.
Maybe
Might not
60.
be that many.
Yeah, maybe 60 in the entire state. So I was laying in bed that morning after the project was shot down, and I'd spent all that money and all that time, and I thought, what am I going to do here? Well, most of the gun shops were in Southern California, and I thought, well, Las Vegas is close by, and there's tons of land out there in southern Nevada. I'll just go and find some property there. What I didn't know at that time was that 97% of southern Nevada is owned by the federal government. It's Bureau of Land Management land, it's Air Force bases, it's desert national parks kind of thing. So it took literally a year to find an appropriate parcel to do this in. In the meantime, we opened on some leased facilities in Bakersfield, California, with 10 students in our first 2-day defensive handgun class, and half of them were there free of charge just to see what we were doing. And in that year, while I was waiting to try to find land in Las Vegas or near Las Vegas, we trained 732 students, and the program just took off. And then we were able to find 550 acres near Las Vegas, about 45 minutes from Las Vegas. And once we put that into escrow and closed escrow, and this was raw land. There was no water, there's no power, there's no road. We just started out there. We cut a road in 4 miles, which was just a dirt road, and we pushed some dirt up to create a berm, and we started creating the plans, and we ran a 1-day free submachine gun course. I went out and I purchased a whole bunch of fully transferable registered M11s, 9mm Mac submachine guns and suppressors. And those things didn't last very long. I mean, they were inexpensive at the time, but those guns, if you look at the history of them, they were built as throwaway guns for special operations. And so we ran through those guns. I mean, you'd be shooting the gun and the stock would collapse, the bolt handle would break off, sears and triggers would break. They were a nightmare. So we moved into fully registered, transferable Uzi submachine guns, and those were workhorses, and we still have those guns to this day. And over a 2-year period of time, 20,000 people came out and attended that free 1-day submachine gun course, and it was a legit course. I mean, we had 5-gallon buckets of 9mm ammunition. We provided breakfast. We provided a lunch afterwards, and we let them know what we were building out there and what our goals were and what our purpose was, and then gave them the opportunity to purchase their next real course, a 4-day course from us, or even purchase one of our memberships. Wow. And that went on for, like I say, 2 years, and 20,000 people attended that, and that provided the initial capital to start building FRONTSIGHT, and it's just grown and grown and grown ever since.
So it wasn't a particular reason that it ended up in Pahrump. It was, you were just looking in the Vegas area and found some raw land, or was there something about Nye County or Pahrump that did they reach out to you, or?
No, nobody was reaching out to us for anything. The problem in southern Nevada is that most private property was small mining claims, 10, 20 acre mining claims. So we were looking for a large parcel that was close enough to Las Vegas to where it was easily, commutable, and yet was far enough away to where we could get permits. Because remember, we had already been shot down in California in an area that was nothing but cattle ranches. So we wanted to be in an area where no one would have a complaint about what we were doing, yet close enough to where if someone flew into Las Vegas, got a hotel in Las Vegas, it was only a 30 to 45-minute drive. It's a very difficult thing to do. We actually found this property by searching county records, and it was a chemical company from Connecticut, I believe it was, that owned this property, and they'd owned it since 1930 or something. They used to mine the diatomaceous earth out of this parcel for filters. Well, when filter technology changed, this was just surplus land. They didn't even know they had it. So my real estate agent contacted them and said, "Hey, we found this parcel. We'd like to purchase it from you." And somebody in their corporate office, looked up on the records and said, "Holy smokes, we've got this out here. Yeah, let's sell it." So believe it or not, I was able to buy, about 27 years ago, I was able to buy 550 acres, 45 minutes from Las Vegas for $185,000.
Well, that's a pretty good land deal, but it really, I mean, it was like you said, very, very raw land. Yeah, 30, 45 minutes from Vegas. But when you built that, Pahrump and Nye County were pretty barren, and they've come a long way in that time period. I think in large part to FRONTSIGHT. It seems like you've really helped build their economy. Is that accurate to say?
Yeah, that's accurate. Nye County, or I should say the city of Pahrump, maybe it was, either the county or Pahrump actually hired a consultant to come out and do a study as to how they could improve their financial situation and improve tourism. And they paid him about $150,000 for this study that he did. And at the end of the study, he came back to him and he said, there's 3 things that you can do to increase your capacity, increase your tourism out there in Nye County and in Pahrump, and that is support FRONTSIGHT, support Spring Mountain Raceway, because FRONTSIGHT is responsible at the time that he did this report, which was probably 10 years ago, is responsible for $40 to $50 million in revenue coming into Pahrump every year.
Wow.
Just from the volumes of people that were coming in and staying at their hotels and eating at their restaurants and, purchasing assorted things in Pahrump. So yeah, we definitely have had an impact. I know a lot of people that are members of ours literally retire and buy houses in Pahrump as well because they want to be close to FRONTSIGHT, and many of them then become instructors for us as well. So it works well for everybody.
Yeah, my wife and I, we've been going together to FRONTSIGHT. I think this is her 4th year. She graduated. She was very, very proud of that. And as she should be, she worked really hard. I think every year on the drive home, we have this discussion on this whole idea of, let's ditch San Diego and leave everything behind, and we'll rent our house out to FRONTSIGHT people, and we'll cook for them and clean their guns. And we have this whole idea, this whole romantic idea. And it's hard not to after 4 days with you guys. It really is a lot of fun. It's a really great time, some really great instruction. So what do you think the next 5 years are going to look like for FRONTSIGHT?
We're just going to continue to grow as we've been growing. We'll get the resort completed, and then when we run our classes, we sell out almost every hotel room in the Pahrump area. So those people, when the resort's completed, they'll be able to stay at FRONTSIGHT, and that will allow us to offer so many other services in the evenings, in the mornings, at lunchtime. Again, to have an even greater FRONTSIGHT experience. So that's what I see happening over the next 5 years. We'll just continue to grow and keep doing what we're doing. Our influence will also grow. When you've trained 1 million people, there's a lot of people out there, spreading the good word about what we're doing.
Earlier when you said that you attended a number of other professional schools, and there were some things that they weren't doing, as well as you thought could be done. What's a good example of something that of course you don't have to name the school or whatever, but what's a good example of a technique or something that happened at a school and you thought, it could be better, and when I start FRONTSIGHT, it is better. What's a good example of that?
Well, I've got a number of good examples for you, and since you've been to FRONTSIGHT, you'll recognize this. Number one is most of those schools were run by ex-military and ex-law enforcement people who, for their careers, trained a captive audience. Well, that's fine, when you're training recruits, the manner in which you treat them, the manner in which you speak to them, I should say. But when you have a dentist or a doctor or a lawyer or a school teacher or, grandparents coming out, to take classes, you have to treat people in a much more respectful and civilized manner. So that's number one. I mean, the schools that I went to were not schools that you necessarily would want to bring your 16-year-old daughter to, whereas at FRONTSIGHT, absolutely you could bring there. So, it's right in our policies, in our employee handbooks. There's no off-color jokes. There's no swearing. You stick to the curriculum. You stick to the script. As you know, when you go to Front Sight and take a 4-day defensive handgun course and then come back, next year and take a 4-day defensive handgun course, you're going to get the same quality. You're not going to get a curriculum that's watered down. You're not going to get a curriculum based on the instructor that's teaching it. Yeah. And so many times I would take classes and, come back and take a second or third class, and the instructor would say, well, this is how you learned it when you were here last. This is the way I teach it. Yeah. No, you can't have that, because what that does to the student is he says, well, what I was taught the first time right or wrong? What's better? No, we teach a curriculum that you can bet your life on, whether it's handgun, shotgun, rifle, or submachine gun. And since you've taken some of the other classes, you know that the techniques that we teach transition over to those other weapon systems, so you're not learning a bunch of extra stuff that could confuse you when you need to use that gun to save your life. Because the way you train is the way you're going to fight. And if you have a system that is very similar, that all of the techniques with the malfunction clearances, the presentations are all very similar, weapon system to weapon system, you're not going to have confusion. You're going to do what you were trained to do, and you're going to win that gunfight. So that's one thing there, the consistency in the curriculum.
It is, and if I could talk about that for a second too, I in my former life, before I was running San Diego County Gun Owners, I was in sales, and specifically financial services. And every year they'd send us to a new, some kind of sales seminar, some kind of sales training. So I got to see a lot of facilitators, a lot of people that facilitated curriculum. Sometimes it was sales training, sometimes it was some kind of financial training, but there was a lot of training. And I got to know what good facilitation was, and I got to know what bad facilitation was. And the first thing I noticed when I came to FRONTSIGHT was, number one, like you said, you have a curriculum. It isn't just, well, Bob says you should stand this way and Fred says you should stand that way, and pull the trigger and we'll let you know if you're doing it right. It's a very definite curriculum that has a very definite purpose and pattern and follows a purposeful set of steps, and your instructors deliver it perfectly every single time. And this is something that I came to know really, really well. And seeing your instructors do it, forget even take out their curriculum, forget that it's guns or whatever. Their skill at being a facilitator is top notch, and it's very rare to see that in the firearms field, which I'm very, very happy about. And the other part too, where you were talking about, maybe the attitude of the instructors. You're right. When you go to FRONTSIGHT, it's not it's not boot camp. You don't get screamed at, you don't get yelled at. It's nothing like that at all. In fact, your instructors are all very entertaining and very personable. Most people, if you go to FRONTSIGHT 2 or 3 times, you end up making friends with a couple of the instructors. And that first day, when they're doing the weapons check and everything, it's an opportunity to go and hug some folks you haven't seen for a while. It's that good. So I commend you on that. I think what you've done was extremely smart, and it works. It works really well.
Yeah, thank you. That doesn't happen by accident. We have a very involved instructor development program. We spend tons of time and money on bringing our instructors up to higher and higher levels so that they can perform on demand. And that's one of those other things, the whole performance on demand. When you go to a class at the very beginning, they step up and they demonstrate at speed and with accuracy exactly what they're going to teach you. In all of these other schools that I went to, none of the other instructors ever shot. And I asked them, why don't you guys demonstrate this? And they were told, well, there's no upside to that. If we do it well, you just say, oh, well, he's the instructor. And if we blow it, then you lose credibility. Well, my feeling was, we're going to show our students that not only can we, talk the talk, we can walk the walk. So that's always been the policy at FRONTSIGHT, that you must perform on demand, at speed, everything that you're teaching the students. So that keeps the instructors, practicing on their own, because they don't want to embarrass themselves on that first morning, when they step up to deliver, two control, a control pair or a headshot, at speed in front of the entire class. They better be ready, and they are, and that's why we do that. The other thing that we changed was, all of these schools that I went to had a subjective criteria in grading you. So the instructors would get together and they would talk, I guess, at the end of the class about, you and how well you did, and they would rank you based on subjective criteria.
Really? So in all these different schools, they all had a subjective criteria? There wasn't wow, that's crazy.
Yeah, again, this is 30 years ago. It may have changed because I haven't been to any other schools in quite some time, but at the time I went to all of them. And I was really I wouldn't say shocked, but coming from being a doctor, you take a lot of tests and everything's graded on a test. The only time there was ever subjectivity is when you sat for your board exams and you had to do answer oral questions about a particular diagnosis or something like that. And your life is in the hands of the person that you're talking to at that point. I never liked that either. So many times I would go to these classes. I'll give you an example of this. Let's just give you an idea of why I really set this in stone, that all of the certification at FRONTSIGHT is based on objective, not subjective, meaning you either got the score under time or you didn't. So I went to this one class. It was a rifle class. And I shot the high score on the final test. They had a particular drill where it was like a simulator that was timed. I shot the high score on that. I won the shoot-off without losing a bout. So you would do it 2 out of 3. So 2 bouts and I'd move on. Went through the entire class and won the shoot-off. Shot a clay bird out of the sky with an M1A. And when it came time to give the highest certification in the class, it was given to a Marine sniper that I handily beat in all of those categories.
Huh.
And people came up to me after the class and said, "Hey man, you okay?" Including the instructor, because it was kind of a group think on who got this highest award. And he said, "Are you okay?" I said, "I'm fine." I said, I'll be back next month." And I did. I came back next month and performed just as well and got the highest rating at that time. And my goal was actually to secure the highest ratings of all these schools because I was nobody. I was simply a chiropractor. I didn't have law enforcement or military experience, but I knew how to teach. And I knew what I was seeing in these schools, and I knew how I could make them better, make FRONTSIGHT better by doing these different things. So that was one of the changes we made. Another one was the free submachine gun class. I wanted to take submachine gun training at all these different schools. And they said to me, "You're a civilian. You can't get special weapons training. It's only for law enforcement and military." And I thought, well, that's just a bunch of crap. So what did I do? I went out and bought a whole bunch of submachine guns, and I provided free submachine gun training to private citizens, 20,000 of them over 2 years, and to put us on the map, and we've not stopped growing since. Nice. So those are just some of the things that I learned by going around to all these other schools. And I'm grateful for the training that I received from them. And I'm grateful for the experience and for the mentoring that many of these instructors gave me. And I just realized this could be done in a manner that would be much more appealing to many, many more people, and that's what FRONTSIGHT has become.
Well, one of the things that makes it appealing is that you don't have to take out a second on your house to afford FRONTSIGHT training. I see people every level, from blue collar, white collar, independently wealthy, everything in between. Every economic category of person can make it to FRONTSIGHT, can get into FRONTSIGHT and afford FRONTSIGHT. And a lot of that has to do with your generosity and making sure that memberships are available to people. How are you able to do that? How are you able to offer training to so many people at such an affordable cost?
Well, the reason I can do this is because of the quality of the product and the quality of the experience. How many classes have you attended now?
Maybe a dozen. I've lost count, but let's say about a dozen.
Yeah, a whole bunch. All right. Yeah. And every time you come out there, you buy ammo and you rent equipment and you bring people with you. You have a charity event that brings hundreds of people out there.
Yeah.
So I could have given you your first 4-day defensive handgun course, a legitimate $2,000 course, absolutely free of charge. I would have lost some money on that, right?
Yeah.
But how about all the other courses that you've attended since then, and all of the money that you spent since then, and all of the referrals that you've brought me? That's worth hundreds of thousands of dollars to me. So I have a lifetime student mentality about my marketing. I'm happy to give somebody a free course, like the 20,000 people that attended the free submachine gun course. You know, we never failed to make less than $75 in profit off of every person that came to that free submachine gun course.
Wow.
Why? Because they came out thinking, oh, this is probably a scam. You know, they're trying to sell me dirt in the desert, or, you know, they're going to let me load one magazine and shoot a target, and then I got to drive back to Las Vegas. They'd show up, there was, you know, a continental breakfast for them. Then the owner of the company stepped up and give them a complete history on the submachine gun that they're going to be shooting, and then tell them a little bit about our purpose and what we're doing. Then we head out to the range, and here's buckets full of 9mm ammo and all of these submachine guns, not just one or two for 20 people to share. There's 20 submachine guns there, and there's snappy looking instructors, and someone steps up and starts talking about, you know, the proper procedure to load and unload, and demonstrates this, and they get a full day of training, learning how to manipulate the trigger, how to clear malfunctions, you know, sight alignment, sight picture, trigger control. And then at the very end of the day, what everybody wants to do is load up a magazine and fire full auto at a target. We actually let them do it twice. Once on a test target, and then correct them so that they can actually, you know, shoot a basketball-sized group on that thing that they can take home and put up on their wall and, you know, tell all of their friends about it. So they're completely blown away at this free course. And there's also something called the law of reciprocity. Because we provided them with such an amazing experience, just naturally they want to exchange with us. So that when you give them the opportunity to buy their next course or buy a lifetime membership, you don't have to sell anything. They want to do it. They want to be a part of it. They want to bring more people out for it. And that's the FRONTSIGHT story. That's what's happened, and that's why we've trained 1 million people.
You know what's funny about that, Doctor, is I got a membership from somebody. I think they had just they were a line coach or something, and they had a certain amount of memberships they were able to sell. So I purchased a FRONTSIGHT membership, and it took me a few years to actually use it, and exactly what you just described. The whole drive out there, a friend of mine had been a couple of times, and he said, "Oh, we got to go. We're going to go take this shotgun course." Okay, I'll go with you. And the whole drive out, I was thinking to myself, it was going to be some kind of timeshare pitch or something, because it was, again, so affordable. And I was thinking the whole time out there, well, if they say this, I'm going to say this. Here's how I'm going to get out of the timeshare pitch. Never happened. There was never a pitch. Even your opening meeting, when you go over the rules and the range and everything, you know, no solicitations or anything. It was all very straightforward. And I think somewhere around day 3, I remember walking around thinking to myself, what can I buy here? Like, how can I give these people more money? This was great. So I went from, you know, this defensive, well, I'll show them, to, you know, trying to open my wallet and give more. I think I am a perfect example of what you just described. But it's amazing. It's amazing how many people you get through your doors. So typically the property, when I'm out there's hundreds of people. I think your main classroom can hold, is it 600 people?
Yeah, I think it's 500. Yeah, 500 people. We currently have 50 ranges, which would allow us to train upwards of 2,000 people per day.
All at once.
Day in and day out. Yeah. Yeah.
And it doesn't feel that way. I've been out there when there have been over 1,000. I think they usually talk about, well, hey, here's how many people are on property today. And I think the highest number I ever heard was 12 or 1,300. It never feels that way. It doesn't feel like there are 1,300. It doesn't feel like Disneyland where you're elbow to elbow with people. You do a really great job of organizing folks and making sure that they know where they need to be and how to get there.
Yeah, that's the whole purpose of having great logistics. And we've built this facility And we look forward to the day when we're training 2,000 people day in and day out, because imagine the impact we'll make on the communities that these people go back to and the states in which they live in, and overall the positive impact we'll make on the country.
Nice. So what's a funny story? Give us a really funny front sight story or something that's happened along the way that made you chuckle.
All right. Well, let me think about this. Okay. I'll tell you a story from the early days. This is back when I was actually pretty much doing everything. I was instructing, I was on the line, I was running people through simulators. And actually, I've got a few stories I can tell you on this. But one of them, we were running a rifle class. And at 200 yards, we had these steel targets that had a 12-inch disc in the center. And when you hit the center of the target with a rifle, it would swing out and show red, which indicated a center hit. And if, after shooting these targets for a while, they get a little rattly and they get little nicks and things. And sometimes one of the gates will hang up. And I would pace the students quite often. I would step up next to a student who had the rifle in his hand, and I had my pistol in my holster. And on the go whistle, I would present and fire while he, presented his rifle, just to get them to hurry up a little bit, yet still maintain proper sight alignment, sight picture, and trigger control. So I'd been doing this for, probably a year and a half. So I was pretty well tuned up. Well, somebody shoots one of these targets and it swings out and it gets hung up. So you're seeing, as it swings out to the right, the little thing doesn't come back. So you're seeing about a 12-inch red disc to the right of the steel target. So I say, hey, well, there's 20 guys on the line. I say, hey, one of you guys shoot that disc and knock it back in place. So one guy shoots and he misses, and another guy shoots and he misses. And pretty soon there's 20 guys on the line shooting at this thing. It sounds like an NYPD, shooting. Nobody's hitting anything. So I say, cease fire. And everybody stops. I present my weapon. Boom. Tink. And it goes back in. That was a 200-yard shot with a pistol. Now, nobody said a thing. I just put the gun back in my holster. I said, now, let's focus on the front sight. And let's press the trigger. And we carried on. Well, like 15 years later, we're doing an event at a hotel in Las Vegas, and I'm walking around the room before it starts and, just meeting and greeting and talking to people. And I see one of our members and a younger member that was with him, and I said hello, and then I moved on to somebody else, and we were still within ear reach. And this older member said, you can't believe what an amazing shot that guy is. And he tells the story, because he was one of the students in the class, of this shot. Yet he expanded on it. It was at 400 yards. It wasn't 400. It was 200, but I didn't correct him.
Yeah, don't correct that. Just go ahead and let him run with that.
Yeah, that's how legends are made. And then there was another one. We were doing a precision rifle class, and we had a Bakersfield PD SWAT officer, really squared away guy, great guy, who was the instructor in it. And we had set up this outdoor simulator where these steel targets were at varying distances from 50 yards all the way out to 1,200 yards. And you kind of run around these hills, and you've got to identify the targets and estimate the range and shoot them. So I'm walking him through all of this, showing him, okay, this is the simulator that you'll be running your students through. And we get out to one, and there's a target out there about 400 and something yards. And he had heard of the other incident that had occurred that I just described to you. He says, so you think you're pretty good with that pistol of yours, huh? And I said, oh, I'm okay. And he said, well, could you hit that target? And I said, what, that one out there at about 400 and something yards? And he goes, yeah, could you hit that? I said, yeah. He goes, no way. Well, I'd been practicing the Elmer Keith system where you take the front sight and you raise it above the rear sight, and you use that front sight as kind of a gauge for distance. Yeah. So I've been messing around with that. And so I present the weapon, I put a whole lot of front sight up on it, and that allows you to sit the target on top of the front sight. If you just line the front sight up at that distance, you don't see the target at all anymore. So you kind of lollipop it, press the trigger, boom, tink. He goes, no way, do that again. I holstered my weapon. I said, you'll have to come back next year for that.
Go out on top.
So yeah, that's those are a couple of funny stories that I made some good shots and people actually saw them. A lot of times you make great shots and nobody sees it. It's like you never did it before.
That's funny. So do you get recognized a lot?
If you go to my website, you're going to see that 5 weapons image that was taken when I was like 36 years of age. And you're going to see the headshot photo that was probably taken when I was 38 years of age. And I haven't put any other photos on there. And the reason people always ask me that, when are you going to put your photo? You're so vain. It says, no, it's not vanity at all. It's, I can't really go anywhere without people recognizing me when you've trained 1 million people. I mean, I've been at rock concerts and people come down from, 3 seats and say, hey, Dr. Piazza, that's you. Or I've been at ball games and, 5 people are sitting behind me. So you don't get a whole lot of privacy that way. So now that I'm 61, I don't look much like that, like those photos. So I get a little bit more privacy as a result of that. But yeah, and I'll tell you another story. One time I was at a Christmas party it was a golf resort. Somebody was holding, and there are 3 people sitting around talking about hunting and guns and things like that. So I stepped in and started talking, and I'm talking to these 4 people. And one of the guys says, well, you guys have to come out to FRONTSIGHT. And I said, really? What's FRONTSIGHT? And this guy gave me a commercial about FRONTSIGHT that I could not have done better. And he didn't even know I owned it. And I thought, man, this is really gratifying that the message that I'm trying to get across in somebody who's been out to FRONTSIGHT 4 or 5 times, and he's selling me and 2 other people to come to FRONTSIGHT with him. I couldn't break his heart and tell him who I was. I just said, man, that sounds like a great place. I'm going to try to go there sometime. And I walked away thinking, yeah, it is working. It is. People are getting the right message.
I've wondered. I've heard that a few famous folks have trained at FRONTSIGHT in preparation for working on a movie. Do you have private classes or classes for the movie industry or for famous people in general, or how does that work?
Yeah, that's true. We've done technical advice on a few movies. We've had some movie directors come out. We've had some actors come out and take classes in preparation for that. We kind of keep that hush-hush because that's what they want. We have, Fortune 500 type executives that come out for private training with their families, and they just want it, they want it to be private. So we do that, and it is available for people that want that. I'd like it to get to the point where, the celebrities come out and they're proud of the fact that they're getting firearms training. But the society that we live in right now, it doesn't seem to be getting better in spite of everything that we're doing here at FRONTSIGHT. So we really need to up our game and not take another 25 years to train 1 million people. I'd like to see us get this facility completed and then get a second or third facility and get to the point where we're training 10,000 people a day.
Yeah.
Across the country. And that can make an impact that will truly change the country. Because really, the only reason people don't appreciate firearms and don't have the same understanding of guns that you and I have is the lack of knowledge, lack of training, lack of experience, a fear of the unknown, all of those different types of things. So if we can get to the point where we have 4 or 5 facilities and we're training those kinds of numbers, we will make an impact in this country that will be felt positively.
Is there anybody in the Second Amendment world, and maybe they're political or entertainment or competitive, is there anybody in the Second Amendment world that you're particularly fond of?
Well, of course, all of the people that I trained under, whether I necessarily agreed or disagreed with the way they ran their schools, I have a warm spot in my heart for them because they helped me get started for sure. I think I have a greater respect for the grassroots type people, people like yourself, that are spending your time and effort, to organize folks. I really appreciate that more than, an individual, a celebrity who endorses guns or anything like that. I mean, there's hundreds and hundreds of people like us that are doing everything that we possibly can, to help support the Second Amendment, help change people's understanding of the Second Amendment. So those are the people that I respect and admire the most. The people that, they're not necessarily in the limelight, but they're working hard every day. And with our members, so many of them have that mentality.
Yeah.
Because they're out there bringing people to Front Sight because they know with every person that comes to Front Sight, that's one more person that understands it, that understands the importance of the Second Amendment, and is that walking, talking representative of safe and responsible gun ownership.
Yeah, I'm with you on that. I totally agree. So a lot of people in Southern California, possibly across the nation, but especially in San Diego and Riverside and San Bernardino and Orange County, a lot of people who go to Front Sight are going to listen to this interview. What would you like them to know, or what's a parting piece of information or something that you want them to know about you or Front Sight or the Second Amendment in general?
Well, number one, I would like them to know that I greatly appreciate their support and their like-mindedness in what I'm trying to accomplish out at Front Sight, and the effort that they make to bring more and more people into the fold at Front Sight. And I would be remiss if I did not actually let everybody that's watching this video know that they can come out and take a free 4-day defensive handgun course. They can go to the link frontsight.com, FRONTSIGHT.com/free handgun course. Common spelling, free handgun course. And, you'll see a 20-minute video of me, talking about Front Sight and who the type of person that we're looking for to come out to Front Sight. And you simply sign up for that. It's absolutely free. You're getting the 4-day defensive handgun course, the $2,000 course, free of charge. And then once you submit that, you'll actually get another opportunity to get an at-home training course that will prepare you for the 4-day course for $1. And that's going to give you everything that you need to come out there and have the greatest time you could possibly imagine out at Front Sight. And once you've done that, as you know, you're a different person.
Yep.
And we don't have to sell you anything at that point. You want to participate. You want to bring more people out. You want to get a membership. You want to get memberships for your entire family. And that's, if anybody asks what's the secret of Front Sight success, I would put it into a great product, meaning the training that we provide, great staff who provide the training, and a purpose that's greater than just making money. Because people align with that purpose and they want to help, they want to participate. And along the way, everybody wins.
I think that's fantastic. Dr. Piazza from Front Sight, can't tell you how much I appreciate your work, and I really appreciate your time and your interview here today. Thank you so much. Highly encourage everybody listening to go to Front Sight. If you've never been, definitely check out the offer that he gave, because you're not going to beat it. So thank you very much, Doctor. I appreciate it.
Well, thanks so much for having me. It was a great time. I appreciate it.
Great. Thanks.
All right.
Thanks for watching our Magnum show, where we dig into gun owners topics a little more in depth. You can watch us live every Sunday from 4 to 6 p.m. California time, right here on our YouTube channel, or if you're in the San Diego area, you can listen to us on 1170 a.m. We're also available on your favorite podcast platform for free. Don't forget to like and subscribe so that you can help restore and protect the Second Amendment, not just in California, but across the country.